Okay, awesome. I think we're going to get going here in just a moment once my guest joins me. Hey, Jeff.
Hey Danielle.
Okay, great. I'm just adjusting my screen here. We all know how it is, working from home. Okay, so hi everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to MessageGears Turn Your Carts into Cash webinar. Without further ado, we can introduce ourselves. My name is Danielle Briner, and I'm the product marketing manager here at MessageGears, and I'll let Jeff introduce himself.
And hey, I'm Jeff Pope. I'm a solutions consultant here at MessageGears.
Awesome. Thanks for taking some time to dive into this today with me, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, let's get started.
Right, cool. Okay, there's us. There's our dogs. Mine may bark, but we're hoping not.
Mine may do
So,
the same thing. She tends to get very excited when we talk about the platform.
oh, perfect. Love a hype crew. Um, we're going to do a little housekeeping here really fast so our guests know what they're getting into here the next 20 to 30 minutes or so. So we're going to talk about abandoned carts. You all know, obviously, abandoned cart campaigns, that's why you're here. What works, what doesn't today, building brand loyalty and excellent user experiences using MessageGears. And then our very own Jeff Pope is going to take us into the platform to show us how we use the MessageGears suite of products to do this. And we'll do some takeaways. Of course, if you guys have any questions or comments throughout the webinar, you're more than welcome to put them in the questions section and I'll answer them. I'll get them answered live. Either I or Jeff will answer them, or we'll have someone follow up with you afterwards. So let's get the party started here. I'm going to launch a quick poll. We want to know how you all are running your abandoned cart campaigns today. So we have a few options. The first one's just email. You're just using email for abandoned cart. The second one is email, push, and SMS. You're leveraging all three platforms options, or you're doing email with either push or SMS. The fourth option is carrier pigeon, just for fun. If you're using a carrier pigeon, please reach out. We are more than happy to show you a much better option. So yeah, we have some results rolling in here. I'm just going to give everyone a few more minutes to answer, or not minutes, seconds really. It's pretty fast, and we will close it now. And we can kind of share the results here and talk about them for a second. So it looks like roughly half of you are doing just email, so that's pretty on brand. I get a ton of abandoned cart emails. And then you guys, the other half, are doing email and then either push or SMS. So this may be a really interesting webinar, so because we can show you how you can do all three. So let's get started without any more polls and fun games. So we all know, obviously, as enterprise organizations, what abandoned cart campaigns do. They're a great way to capture your customers. And on average, brands see a ton of re-engagement with carts, with the information, the campaigns that they send to these customers, with nearly like 3 out of 4 carts being turned over into purchases. So I know, that happens to me all the time. And as consumers, we also know what it is because we all buy stuff all the time. I'm a huge online shopper, and we'll get a message that looks like this. And, we're waiting and hoping and wishing for this item to go on sale or what have you, and we'll get another abandoned cart email. So I just want to show, this is changing, and that's something that we'll be able to see today in MessageGears. So today, Jeff's going to walk you through it. But before that, I want to ask you, Jeff, have you had any good abandoned cart campaigns roll through your inbox lately?
I have. It's funny. I was just looking for those earlier, and I saw there was one. I was shopping for a record from a store up in New York, and I guess I put it in my cart and left, and then got an email saying that it was still in there, which then triggered my memory to go back and actually purchase it. So they do
Wow,
work, especially on people like me.
you're obviously the ideal customer then. So let's talk about what happens when that doesn't work. So say someone, an enterprise organization isn't using MessageGears. We have a story to tell you today from one of our MessageGears gearheads. We're located in Midtown Atlanta, and Mercedes-Benz Stadium was built here a few years ago, and this person was looking to go to a Beyonce concert. You know, they were browsing this mass events ticketing site, very popular site, and they were oscillating between buying the tickets or not buying the tickets. You know, they called their spouse, they were really expensive, but seeing Beyonce was a lifetime experience, so they had to. After a few hours of decision making, they purchased the tickets. However, 24 hours later, when, you know, they in their head thought, I have tickets for sure, they got an email from this mass ticketing site that said, hey, come back to your cart and purchase your tickets. They panicked, called the ticketing site. That's just poor brand experience. Panic for all around, you know. Spoiler alert, that does not happen with MessageGears. You already guessed it, that's what's coming in this webinar. Better brand experiences, better brand loyalty, because we're letting you access your data in real time to send these messages to know up to the minute whether someone has made that purchase or not. So now that we're all furiously calling our teammates and requesting meetings with MessageGears, I'm going to let Jeff walk you all through how easy it is to set this up in the platform. So Jeff, go ahead and take it away.
All right, well, thank you, Danielle. Yes, so what we're going to do today, we're going to take a look at just a mock client of ours that we call City and Glory, which would be a furniture company. And we're going to really the use case being is how are we going to define and engage an audience of customers who were shopping and then put items in their cart and then took off. And there's a couple of ways we're going to do that. That really starts with one is how are we defining that audience, right? So we're going to connect directly to that audience data that's going to be in a modern data warehouse. And then we're going to have specific targeting subsets that are created for that audience. And really the one we want to focus on is those who have abandoned their cart. From there, it's going to be including that within an overall sort of campaign hierarchy structure. And then we're going to build out those dynamic personalized marketing materials where we are showing customers imagery around what products they've abandoned, making sure that the price is in there, all those things. And then, as a last step, it's going to be setting that cadence for really how and when we're going to get that message out the door and in the customer's hands.
Awesome. Well, that all sounds great. We're going to take them from 0 to 100 through the whole process. So I'm going to share my screen, or, switch screens to Jeff. Here we are. Perfect.
All right, let me get my screen pulled up here.
And also as a reminder, as he's getting set up, you guys feel free to send questions. We will do those as we go through. All right, Jeff, take it away.
Great, okay. So everybody, if you're looking at my screen here, what you see is Accelerator. And Accelerator is the software that's going to allow you to visually segment users, design personalized content, set up orchestrations and automations, all to provide that rich experience to your customers, the right message at the right time, whether that's through our native channels being email, push, and SMS, or out to our external partners. So that whether that's Facebook, Google AdWords, Airship, etc. And so really when we start to think about cart abandonment, that really starts, as we said earlier, about how we're going to define that audience. And within our segment product, we're able to easily do that through one of our blueprints. I'm going to jump into that and just show you how that starts to look. So just a little bit of a context on what a blueprint is. A blueprint is a canvas which you're going to easily create those visually, complex segmentations without the need for bringing in outside, IT resources. It's very user intuitive. It features a drag and drop functionality that allows you to very quickly go in and create these audiences.
Yeah,
so as you can see, we have the. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Pretty complex. How long did it take you to make this?
So this didn't take me long at all because I was mentioned, because it's so user intuitive, it's very simple to understand and start to develop targeting rules around it, especially since we have that direct connection to your data warehouse. And what that really starts with is a simple SQL query where we're going to go in and we're going to define what data points we want from our audience. So whether that's our full universe of recipients or whether it's a very specific subset, we can nail that down, and then we can start to create those different hierarchies as we move down. And so before we get into this, really, MessageGears is designed for customers who want that real-time access to their data rather than being forced into launching campaigns using stale data due to a lagging sync process. So through our direct data connection, our audiences are going to retrieve the most live and up-to-date segment of each customer base each time any of our campaigns launch. So as customer data gets updated in your data warehouse, whether that's going to be status changes or whether that's what items are actually in their cart, it is immediately going to be available in the MessageGears platform for inclusion in that campaign with no really manual intervention required at all. So kind of keeping that in mind as we go through, and the example here, we have our starting population. We had about 1.9 million people. So we're going to start funneling them down into different targeting nodes that we're going to then later use for our campaign assets and our templates. So it starts with, all right, we're going to define who is eligible to receive our messages, who's not, and then as we kind of keep going through, you'll see, well, maybe they have a birthday, and if they don't, they're going to fall into a different subset. And moving forward and moving down, you'll see kind of how that starts to look. But the one we want to focus on really today are our cart abandoners. And so what we've done is we come in and we create a targeting node based off of the number of those recipients that haven't fallen into the other targeting subsets. What we can do is come in and within that targeting node, we can create very specific segments, and those segments each will contain rules, right? And so all of these rules and the options we have to select from, as you can see here, there are quite a few of them. These are all those categories and column headers being read directly out of your database. And what we can do is then go in and we can define, within each of these, what that target rule looks like. So for abandoned carts, the example would be if within the database we see abandoned cart items, we see that data set is not empty for a certain recipient, that tells us that there are items in their cart. We could then do things such as, how many days has it been since they've abandoned their cart? Well, we want to catch anybody who hasn't or has done abandoned a cart in the last week or so. So we can then start to really bring that audience back down. Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff, just for like all the marketers on the line, those like columns that we're showing are a view of like the columns in our database that we're connected to live, like MessageGears lives right on top of your data. But we could also see all of the categories that information that you're collecting on your customers in that preview section, right? Up at the top.
Yes, absolutely. So once we create these targeting nodes and we want to go and say, all right, well, how is that really starting to look in terms of that recipient data? Well, we can go to this preview here. I can click preview my blueprint, and you will see once this loads up what each recipient is going to look like and how we have that data automatically pulling in. And I apologize, it's running a bit slow because generally my webcam will do this, but here we go. So as you can see here, these are our, just right. So this is just a sample. We have just 10 recipients here, though generally out of 100 just for a sample set. We can look and we can see, all right, so we have that email address, we have their first name, and as we scroll through, we can see the abandoned cart items shown right here. So that's going to be a direct reflection of what is in your data warehouse. It is the exact same thing. So what you see here is what you would see there. This is just allowing you to start to activate against it in real time.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks for explaining that.
Absolutely. And so now that we have this audience, right? So we have we know who's abandoned a cart in the last 7 days, and we got about 381,000 people. What we want to do now is we want to go in and we want to say, all right, how do we start to develop a message and really marketing assets that we can then talk to these customers?
Absolutely. So do we want to dive into message here and see how it all
we are. Yeah, you read my mind, Danielle. So we're going to jump into our message product. And I'm first going to show you a template. So as we come into here, you will see that we have a cart abandonment template that's been previously developed. And there are going to be 3 options, as I mentioned earlier, our native channels being email, push, and SMS. We have, just here from this overview screen as well, you'll see a couple different options down here. It's really going to be, what's the audience that we're using for these templates? Are there any marketing campaigns we've already tied to it? In terms of email client tests and spam tests, those are all here as well. So really, this is just giving you that sort of general overview of what this template consists of. And so from here, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the email portion of this. So in our email here, we have 2 options within our email editor, being drag and drop and HTML. Now, drag and drop the editor. If you're familiar with a drag and drop editor, this is going to look very similar to what you've seen. Again, this is also very user intuitive. You have your different assets here on the right side. You just pull those in as needed and start to develop a template around that. You'll notice we have things such as this kind of funny looking language here. Now what this is FreeMarker, and FreeMarker is an open source language that's going to allow us to read that customer data and then use it to personalize these emails with that specific data. So as we come down, you'll see we have, we're going to say heads up and let the recipient know. We want to make sure that we know their name, or we're talking to them directly. And then we're going to have down here what those abandoned cart items were. And then we're going to include things such as the current price of what those would be. And then we're going to ask them to continue just checking out. So now that we've built this out, you're going to want to see, how does this really look? And is this going to render the way I want it to? Well, you can easily do that once I go into our preview here.
Something I love about the preview is that we can also send a test to make sure that it's going to render properly. So sometimes, my mom will just get a random email from MessageGears because I'm testing something out, and
Right.
it's amazing.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Whenever we're sending tests out of any of our marketing collateral, you can do that. To your internal colleagues, to yourself. If you want to send it to your mom or your dad or your brother or sister, you can do that as well. They can receive it and let you know that it's working just as you had intended.
The best business use of that is that there's no waiting on other teams to make sure that your stuff is rendering properly. You can just send it out.
Absolutely. And so as we take a look at the template here, you'll see that on the right side, these are all those same data points that I just showed you when we looked at that blueprint preview, right? So all those different data points that we're reading from your warehouse, we have directly available here. So, in the example here, our first abandoner is Jim. So, heads up, Jim, you got something in your cart. And as we come down, you'll see we have a couple of different items that are listed here. And looking down our list here on the right side, you'll see that we have got the abandoned items actually showing here. Now, these are shown as numbers, right? So you might ask, why are there numbers there and not actual products? And that is because, aside from just recipient data, we're also able to pull in an additional data source, and that's context data, right? So a lot of times, you're not going to have specific data around the items tied to the recipient, in your recipient data. So when you want to look at, context data, so think of, store locations or, any specific, sets like that, you're able to go into context data and you're able to pull that in. So I can check that just by coming up and looking at our, go ahead, Danielle.
I have a quick question there. Even if your recipient data is in your modern data warehouse, say you have your context data stored in a different location, we're able to pull both of those in and use them both at the same time?
We absolutely are. That is very correct. So when I come in and look at our sample data up here, you'll see that I've got my 2 abandoners that I'm just using as a test here. I've got all that recipient data shown here. And then when I go into my context data, you'll see that I've brought in the actual, if it's inventory for City and Glory, I have all those here as well. So when I have an item ID, being 1 through 10 or 1 through 12, you'll see that item ID here, right? And so then that's telling us what that category is, what that actual description of the product is, that product image, that's all living right here as well. So when I come back in down to the template itself, you'll see that when I have that 2, 3, 4, that's tying it back directly to that context data. And then by going over and let's say I want to test how it's going to look for another one of our recipients. So in this case, it's Danielle. So now Danielle has left a couple of pieces of furniture in her cart. And as I go down, I'll see that I have the abandoned cart items here. And as we're testing these things, you want to say, all right, Danielle she may have the walnut chair, she may have the bar stool. What if she puts something else in her cart? Well, if I want to go in here, I can say, let's do 1, let's do 3, and let's keep 5. And I click this. And now that bedroom dresser is in there as well. So this is allowing you to do all the testing on how your template's going to render and how that personalization will render without the need to go in and bring in an additional IT resource to do a lot of that testing for you. So really it's just helping you be as nimble and as quick to market as possible with your messages with the most up-to-date information possible.
Awesome. keeping marketing within marketing. Who knew?
Absolutely, and you know, I would be remiss to not mention if you know, one of the really great parts of this is that, you know, that test I just did had no effect on Danielle's underlying customer data within the data warehouse. It was just simply in this instance here alone for my testing. So once I click off of this, Danielle's abandoned cart items will still be that walnut chair and that bar stool, and that bedroom dresser will no longer be there.
Awesome. Cool. So how
And
are we going
so
to take all of this and then like put it all together in a campaign and launch it?
So yeah, right. So what's the next step, right? So we've built that audience out of our cart abandoners. We know, you know, what that universe looks like. We now have a very strong, you know, dynamic, personalized message that we can get out to these users. The question is how do we start to set it up to where we do get it out to them? And that is all done here in Message as well. And that's going to delivery. And I'm going to go into our marketing campaign section and show you some of the options we have available for that.
And here in this campaign, it looks like, you know, we have our audience. So that's what we built out in MessageGears segment. And then we have our template, which we built in MessageGears message. So it's all in one spot. So I love that.
Yep, it's all here for you. So kind of taking a look at this, just to show you guys how, you know, a little different view. So when we have the audience, so we're really using that first generalized campaign priorities blueprint. So there's a number of campaigns that we built out for different audiences within one blueprint. But I know for our cart abandoners, I really just want to target them specifically. So what I can do is I can go and I can filter this blueprint out, and you will see the same blueprint that we looked at previously. And there's going to be the option to select any of these targeting nodes that I want to use for this particular campaign. Now, obviously, I'm going to select cart abandoners, but you know, if I wanted to create a more, you know, overarching campaign, I could select a number of these and have them sent out. But this is really just showing you that option of making sure that you are targeting the audience that you want to, you know, within the platform. So then coming back into the campaign, do you have the options of launch variables, right? So what's that? That's when you're building out your audience. So you do have the option to say, all right, with this audience, I'm going to set a variable such as a campaign send limit. So making sure that no one's getting any of these messages more than 5 times. There's also the option of setting variables, you know, such as we're going to make sure that we are not, you know, talking to these users, you know, prior to 2 hours after they've abandoned. You know, we don't want to be intrusive or, you know, seem over aggressive with getting
What's
people.
funny about launch variables is that they're one of our most used features in MessageGears.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be surprised for anybody here. It's a very powerful tool, and it's you know, incredibly beneficial. So we have the template over here, right? So we're going to do our cart abandonment. So within this, we can say, all right, so we've got our email. We're going to do some push notifications as well.
Yeah, I have a quick question about that, Jeff.
Yeah.
So we brought that up earlier in the poll. If one of our recipients, one of our customers doesn't prefer email, what if they prefer SMS? Are we able to support that? Sending out
We
different
absolutely are. So you'll see over here we have a send type. So as long as that data is in your data warehouse and you have that data point that says what that recipient's preference is. Now, a lot of times these are going to be, you know, completed by a user as a profile, and let's say they have a preference center and they've said, I only want you to talk to me via email, or I only want you to talk to me via push. You know, that's going to be reflected in your data warehouse, which we can then pick up and pull in here and then say, you know, as we're going to send this campaign out, we're going to look at our different channels and we're going to say, you know, recipient preference, right? So if the recipient's preferred email, push, or SMS, we're going to send it to that channel. It could be email only, it could be push only, or it could just be all recipients, all channels, everybody gets it when we send it out. So that option is absolutely there as long as you know, that data point is sitting in that data warehouse, we're able to read it and activate against it.
Okay, great. You know, I bet if brands started sending out abandoned cart text messages via SMS, there would be a lot more turnover because I check my phone way more than I check my email.
I think most people these days actually do.
That
And you
happens.
also have the ability, you also have the ability schedule-wise, right? So now, you know, we talked about, you know, how we're going to send it out. Now we want to do about when we're going to send it out. More often than not, you know, it's going to be, you know, we're thinking for abandonment cart, it's going to be a daily send. You do have the option of saying, you know, we're going to send out every 3 hours or every 15 minutes. And, you know, the example here, if we said every 15 minutes, what that's going to do is that's not going to send out the email or that message every 15 minutes. Somebody who has a item left in their cart. Really, what it's doing is it's going in and it's checking that that data source and saying, all right, have we sent somebody a message, in this period of time? Has that data changed? Are they still actually within this audience or not? And so it's constantly checking to refresh to make sure that your audiences are always being talked to, when they want to be talked to, and to make sure that we're not, going back to the anecdote that Danielle gave us earlier about sending the wrong message to someone after they've already taken an action. So really, the kind of the key point here being that we are not using that stale data. If it's in your data warehouse, we're activating it in real time when it's there. So that lag is not there, and that's really what's driving the abandoned automation and the power of the MessageGears platform.
Right. Yeah. Just to dig in on that for a second, that's like one of the best things I love to talk about is a product marketer, is that MessageGears differentiator is that we live on top of your live data. There's no copying data like you're used to in like virtually every other solution. So we're updating that data every 15 minutes or however often you want, but it is live. So you're going to have excellent brand experiences and no lag on your data. So I just love that.
Yep, absolutely. That's it. And so, once everything looks good, you can send a couple tests out, as you mentioned earlier, whether that's to yourself, to your internal team, to your family members. And then if everything is good, you'll get an email notification saying that this is a success, you're ready to go. And it's just a matter of hitting launch and you are off to the races. You put it on that interval, like we said earlier, and it's set it and forget it. And you're out the door and you're in your customers' inboxes.
Okay, great. Well, if you want to share the screen back to me, Jeff, we can
I am
finish
going to.
This has been super duper. And all right, let's see. Perfect. So I'll switch here. We just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for joining today. I mean, I know I've enjoyed it. Jeff's always great. So
I mean,
Jeff,
I had a blast. I love talking about this stuff. So anytime.
awesome. Well, if you all want to learn more about MessageGears or just want to give us a shout for saving you a ton of time and money, we would love to hear from you at sales@messagegears.com. So thank you all, and we'll see you later.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for
Bye.
having me. Bye-bye.